What's up, guys? Today is July 1st, beautiful sunny morning in South Florida. Today I'm going to be installing this guy, the Pint X bumpers on this here board, the Pint X, which I'm going to tilt the camera so you guys can kind of see it a little bit more. There she is. All right. So we're going to be installing these bumpers on the Pint X. A couple things to note right away. This box is a little bit chunkier than your standard Pint bumpers, and that's because these bumpers on the Pint X are a little bit thicker than your average bumpers on the regular Pint. So the tools you're going to need, of course, your Onewheel star key, and I saw a Phillips flathead screwdriver just to kind of pry it out, because these bumpers get stuck in there real good. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Gotta aim this thing down a little bit more so y'all can see what I'm doing here. There we go. That's much better. All right. So we have our little star key and screws provided to us by Future Motion, which is good. We're going to be making use of that now. Extra screws are always a good thing to have. And you have white bumper, white bumper. Let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this magnetic fender off, so I'll make my life a little bit easier while I'm working here. One of the great things about having a magnetic fender, this is not an advertisement for Craft and Ride, but some of their products are awesome, so gotta give them props where props are due. Let's try not to have that camera fall. Let's see if I can move this to an elevated position so y'all can see sort of what I'm doing without it being on the table, and I don't have to worry about it falling. Much better. Now y'all can see the table, can see the work, and I don't have to worry about that camera falling with my phone and being a big casualty, which would not be fun. The pesky thing about installing new bumpers is all these screws that you gotta remove, and that can get time consuming, but especially if you're using this little star key versus one of those nice screwdrivers that they make with the star key head here. But oh well, it's all good. Be very careful not to lose track of your screws. That's why they give you replacement screws just in case, but still better to keep the ones that you got and just have extra screws. Alright, so important to note, you actually do not need to remove this foot pad to get the bumper out. Now, I've already worked on this Pint X a little bit. I cleaned it when I first got it, so the bumpers are a little easier to work with than if I would have been doing this from scratch. But there's your rear bumper. I was able to get that out with pretty minimal effort, but again, like I said, that's because I had used this flathead screwdriver to kind of wedge it out. I might still have to do that on the other side, but we'll see. So now I take my rear bumper, and I take, thank goodness for that bubble wrap, and take the new white bumper that I'm going to be installing. And it has these grooves and edges so you can kind of see where it's going to align. Should slide in there just like that, if you can see that there. It slides in, locks into place. I can put I know where my screws are going to go. Longer screws go in the deeper hole, shorter screws in the tinier hole. Good idea to always make sure your screws are tight, but not super tight. All right, white bumper in the back is done. Now let's work on the front. Now here you're going to have 2, 4, 6 screws to remove, so a little bit more work. We might also kind of have to pry it out, but let's see. it's kind of good that I'm doing this video because there's really not a whole lot of videos on how to change Pint X bumpers. I've seen many on how to change regular pint bumpers, which this is very similar to, but not identical, because you're dealing with a thicker bumper here than you would be on the regular pint. So. Like I said, it's a worthy investment to get that star key screwdriver because it makes this whole process so much easier. It can be done with the regular star key, but you're just going to have to be a bit more patient with it. So now I have my 6 screws, my 2 long screws and my 4 tiny screws. Now we can work on the process of getting this bumper removed. On the front it's kind of tricky. You might have to do some work with this foot pad too, because kind of have to leverage it out from and away from the foot pad. So you might have to sort of loosen these foot pad screws. So keep your foot pad screws away from the bumper screws so you don't get them mixed up. It really won't make a difference, but just so you know which ones go on which side. So now you can see I've got the controller here open and exposed. I'm not messing with any of that. I don't have a engineering degree and I don't work for Future Motion, so I'm leaving all that intact. Now here is my bumper. This is what I want to take out. So I'm going to use this flathead screwdriver, kind of leverage it ever so slightly. that's it. That's all you really need, is about one or two good nudges with that flathead, so you can kind of get it out from underneath this base here. And then you should just be able to tug on it. Again, this front foot pad's going to be challenging because it's just in there so much deeper. There we go. And voila! Now this baby puts up a fight, but in the end, you're able to remove her just like the other one. So, and you don't have to work with any of these screws here that are on the rail. That's the first thing I noticed, is don't touch any of these screws here that are on the Pint X rail. You don't need to touch any of those or worry about them. You're just dealing with the screws that are on the back of these bumpers, and that's pretty much it. So, now I take my new white bumper, all pretty and unscratched and undamaged, and I'm going to slide that right where that previous bumper, the stock bumper, was. Make sure you slide it into those grooves. Bingo. And just like that. That's it. Now you can give it a quick glance over before you start putting your screws in, just to make sure you did it correctly. But it feels like exactly where it ought to be, so There it is. Screw holes line up. Perfect. Exactly where it should be. Now I'm going to go ahead and put these screws back. This video is getting a little longer than I anticipated it, but that is your process for changing the Pint X bumpers. Just remember to keep track of all your screws. Use your flathead screwdriver if you need to sort of pry the bumper away from the controller. But be very careful, obviously you don't want to damage your controller. But that is it. That is the main difference between changing Pint bumpers and Pint X bumpers, is just that added thickness, which you can kind of see. But still, the process is relatively the same. So, alright guys, thanks for watching.